Babylon Bee is back on Twitter. Let that sink in.
The Chinese are putting people into camps, but it's okay. They just want to eliminate COVID.
We talked to a journalist about the battle over transgender ideology, and what he found out will shock you.
All this and moronic.
The Bee Weekly.
Our sponsor today is a very unique gift company, Highland Titles. The company, which has been running for 16 years, can make you a lord or a lady for less than $50. The way they do this is by allowing you to buy a piece of land as little as 1 square foot from their Highland estate. This legitimately makes you a Scottish landowner, allowing you to claim the title of lord or lady. The best part is that not only will you become a lord or a lady, you will help preserve the landscape because Highland Titles manages the land as a nature reserve. According to TripAdvisor, the Highland Titles Nature Reserve is one of the most popular nature reserves in the country. Now as we head into the Christmas period, or for any special events such as birthdays or anniversaries, by visiting highlandtitles.com you can get an amazing and truly everlasting gift for your loved one. Once you have ordered your gift from Highland Titles, you or your loved one will get an official, personalized certificate and a beautiful gift pack in the mail. Access to the online dashboard where you can download your certificate, view images of the land, and if you ever visit Scotland, you can visit your very own small patch of the Scottish countryside at the Highland Titles Nature Reserve. The gift has more than 14,000 reviews on Trustpilot with an average rating of 4.8 out of 5. By visiting highlandtitles.com and using the discount code BUZZ, you will receive 15% off anything on the site, my lord. Hey everyone, welcome to the Babylon Bee podcast. I'm Kyle Mann, the editor-in-chief of the Babylon Bee, and I'm hanging out with Jarrett and Dan today. How you guys doing?
Great. Doing well.
Awesome.
Doing
This
well.
has been a freaking whirlwind, man. We had Thanksgiving week, which a lot of us weren't in, or we were jumping in and out of Thanksgiving
it was
week.
crazy.
And then we had the holiday off, and we didn't even record a podcast last week.
Well, because we did 2 the week before.
Doubled up and then,
Yeah.
and then dumped
Yeah,
it.
some of us weren't in, but others of us were here working on that
hard.
podcast.
I was in the
Doubly
mountains. I was up in the mountains.
Yeah, Jarrett always seems to be in the mountains
Yes.
or the Antichrist.
I'm either in the mountains or I'm the Antichrist.
One of the
yeah,
two,
just,
usually.
it happens.
When is your Antichrist movie coming out?
That's going to be, so they're still working
Talk
on
about
it.
that yet or no?
Yeah, I can. I don't know when it's coming out, but I think they're just kind of putting together the torch for VidAngel. So that's kind of what
okay.
they're
I didn't
trying
know
to
that
do.
was a VidAngel thing.
Yeah, so they're trying to do an angel torch. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Is that a terminology that I should know? Putting together a torch?
The
Probably
people,
not.
yeah, you don't need to
We're
know
making
that.
a torch.
It's a
I'm
trailer.
Like, oh, okay.
It's a movie
either
trailer.
a trailer or a short film or something to inspire interest so that people will want to invest in the film. So
Is that an Angel Studio specific
Yes.
term? Okay.
it is.
They were all sitting around a whiteboard and they were like, how do we make the term trailer more interesting? And then like Jordan Harmon was like,
a torch.
torch.
No, they have a whole story.
And they were all like,
behind it.
whoa.
They have a story with a cow. I think it's like this
No,
weird.
it's not the cow. Isn't it the Statue of Liberty?
It's the Statue of
It's
Liberty.
the cow.
There was another story with a cow.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what that story was, but I watched the
Been hanging
presentation.
out with the Angel Studios guys. Too
I
much.
did.
Do you think that there's a difference between Christianity and Mormonism?
Are you asking me what the differences are?
I want to see if they've brainwashed you,
Oh yeah, have
like they got to
Mormonized?
Dallas Jenkins.
Have they? They Mormonized that guy. What's going on?
I was going to ask if torch
I
is a
am
Mormon
the law.
thing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is-
Is
no,
torch
it's-
a Mormon thing?
No,
I don't
Just an
think it's
Angel
a Mormon-
Studios thing.
it's literally the Statue of Liberty thing.
Like they
Okay.
built the torch. Supposedly
yeah.
they built the dude built the torch and then got everybody to crowdfund the statue.
It was the
he
first
raised
crowd-
investors because he's like, look at this torch. Now I'm going to build a whole woman. Give me money.
Yeah.
So he's like, what you need to do is like show a little part of your product.
Oh, I remember that now. Yeah. Okay.
Start with the woman part.
Oh, did we already
Or the-
talk? Oh, we
no,
did because
sorry.
you met the angels. Did they Mormonize you?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Every
Test
time
me.
I did joke with them though. I joked with them a lot. I asked them if season 7 was going to take place here in the United
America,
States,
yeah.
just like we did with Dallas Jenkins.
That's
Probably.
great.
And yeah, it's funny.
happened.
We actually had a really funny conversation about somehow deep faking Jonathan Rumi, like saying how to a bunch of Indians.
Have you watched The Chosen?
I did watch the first two seasons. No, is it 3 just came out, right?
I think 3 just
So-
premiered in the theaters or something.
That's right. So I have watched the first 2 seasons.
Okay. Did you like it?
I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually thought it was really good. And there was no Joseph Smith or Mormon stuff in there.
Okay.
So
No Joseph Smith so far.
he's not in there. I don't know. I didn't see him. Brigham Young didn't make an
I
appearance.
wasn't there.
Yeah, he wasn't there, man. None of the
You
guys
were
had
saying,
multiple wives or anything.
You were saying when you were visiting them that you had like a really good theological conversation with them, right? Yeah.
Well, we talked about.
Did you brainwash them?
I did.
Oh, awesome.
I was hoping. I was trying. No, so my wife and their wives were talking, and they got along famously because my wife does homeschool. She runs this big homeschool thing, and they all homeschool, and they all have 8 kids apiece, and it's just, it's typical kind of Mormon thing. But we talked about substitutionary atonement. And it was a really great conversation. I mean, they were asking me a lot of questions because it kind of came up in
Mormons
conversation.
are kind of cross-averse, right? Like, I mean, they obviously believe Jesus was crucified, and they'll talk about that.
I think the sufficiency
But I feel like they
cross,
emphasize the resurrection compared with the cross a lot of times. They don't have crosses on their steeples.
They don't. And I think the sufficiency of the cross is a problem for Mormons.
Right. On a theological perspective, but in terms of an emphasis, they always talk about the resurrection, which obviously is a huge part of redemption.
Well, I would say the resurrection is really important to us too.
Right. No, absolutely.
But it just kind of we have a different story about how that played out afterwards. But yeah. He then appears in the United States and preaches the gospel.
Cool. I like how none of this was planned out. We just started talking about Mormons.
This was great.
I love
this.
I'll tell you what though.
Well, I just seen a lot of. I clicked on a page on Facebook that was Dallas Jenkins exposed or something, and they were like really like hammering him on different stuff, and like obviously like if he's saying stuff that's that we disagree with, then fine. Yeah. But they're like hammering him on it. So I was just curious.
They're just trying to get. Well, the thing is, Dallas is in a unique situation because he's in this
it's like working with Mormons on a show about
with
Jesus. These moments,
and he's done these moments. We got the moments up in here.
We had a beautiful hate mail where someone got mad at us, and he respectfully asked me a question about Mormons being the same thing as Christians, and I said, well, we disagree on a lot of important theological issues. And I never used the word Mormon. I said members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints because I didn't want to offend him.
Right.
And he replied and like, Mormons is a slur. And he got really mad and he was like, Mormons is a slur that was invented to slander us.
Oh, wow. Like he just had that in his pocket.
And I was like, I never said Mormon. Like that's like very clearly
actually,
I was intentionally.
I think that's technically not true.
No, but it's not true. That wasn't like...
They referred to each other as Mormons until
at very least like 5 to 10 years ago they switched it and said no, Mormon is a slur. Maybe it did originate that way. I don't know, but the church officially did call themselves Mormons until recently.
I think it's funny that it took them that long to kind of go, we're offended by stuff, like because they're the most mocked group of people, and they have such thick.
I'm sorry that we're just hammering them.
They're such thick skin. They have such thick skin, and they're like, let's choose this to be offended about.
Now that we have alienated a portion of our audience,
we love them. I love the Mormons.
Every single person in Utah just turned off the podcast and is currently typing us very polite hate mail. I guess we should record this episode. So today we're going to talk about the Babylon Bee being back on Twitter. We're going to run through the news, as she's the only podcast on the internet that covers the news. And we're going to talk about the Chinese citizens who are protesting brutal lockdowns, which is pretty crazy cool. And yeah. Oh, look, there's a different set of stingers there we didn't use.
Oh, yeah.
I think I started writing stingers in the intro section.
Oh, that's what it was.
Oops.
Right-wing science
My
deniers.
bad. I thought that was a pretty good Chinese one. We didn't.
Yeah, let's say it again. Chinese citizens are protesting the brutal lockdowns and zero COVID policy. Bunch of right-wing science deniers. I tell you what. I kind of went into like good. Charlton Heston there.
That was, pretty crazy.
Bunch of right.
We've also got
science deniers.
This episode is chock full of new segments. We have the beloved Sizzler Facts. We're going to have a segment of Dan-splaining, brand new segment. Really excited for that.
We all need that.
Spreading.
And we have Sports Ball Update, which I think we've done like one time, but there's a new segment called Sports Ball Update that we will bring to you periodically. So here we go. Let's dive in this action-packed episode. First, we want to tell you guys to go to BabylonBeLive.com. And you can buy tickets to come see us in Fort Worth, Texas on February 24th of next year.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be so cool.
Awesome. Then we're going to do a podcast recording there.
Podcast recording.
We're going to have other stuff live.
Some announcements, some reveals. Seth's speech or panel with some of us. You're going to get to hang out with the Babylon Bee guys. I think all the VIP tickets are sold out at this point.
Yeah, there's been a lot of sales. A lot of people are going.
There was some talk of figuring out if we could expand that or not. If not, just a general admission ticket will still get you access to hang out with us.
Yeah.
And we're still going to be mingling the entire place and hanging out with everybody.
Does the VIP ticket give you access to like a board game with Kyle?
My goal is going to be to slip away into a corner and play board games during the VIP segment.
And my goal will be to meet every single person that shows up.
Yeah, and you will, and Jarrett will accomplish that goal whether you want to meet him.
I don't know you, but I like you.
Jarrett likes everything. That should be that's our next segment. Is Jarrett likes everything?
That's a
You're going
good
to talk about
segment.
something that you love.
It's very true. I hate very few people and I hate very few things. That's true. I like everything.
It's a good way to be.
You know, I don't know. It makes me feel like an idiot sometimes around all you guys.
Yeah, we got some stuff, right? We got merch.
We have some
new
merch to
merch.
promote. Also, follow the Babylon Bee podcast. We have our separate Babylon Bee podcast account on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So go follow Babylon Bee podcast on all those platforms. Subscribe, whatever the different platforms call us. Now, Dan wants to sell you some merch.
We got stuff. So now is the time when you're buying gifts for people for Christmas. Go to shop.babylonbee.com. We have stuff. If you need stuff, we have stuff. We have John Calvin mugs, Calvinist Santa. We've got Babylon Bee ornaments, which, you know.
What does the Calvinist Santa say on
this one? On the back, it says, everyone is on the naughty list. Calvinist Santa.
That's
Such
good.
a great.
So if you like this, if you like the art, you can usually get it on a mug.
I think we've got it on a mug and a shirt, yeah.
You can get an ornament of it, I think. We have like 4 or 5 different ornaments if you want to put some Babylon Bee stuff on your tree.
Awesome.
The new trucker hats are amazing too. I know they're kind of fairly old, but they're really cool. Everyone keeps asking me about mine.
We have the new Fake News You Can Trust shirts, and I've got to get that hoodie. I keep meaning to go on there and order that hoodie. I'm going to do that. We got the Babylon Bee book bundle if you want the Babylon Bee Guide to Wokeness and the Babylon Bee Guide to Democracy. Great little stocking stuffer. Women like that one for some reason.
They do.
So if you haven't bought your wife a really nice Christmas present yet, might I recommend the Babylon Bee book bundle?
We've gotten some criticism about some of our merch like not being as female friendly.
Yeah.
So I think maybe they're going
Book
for
bundle.
the books.
Like
Yeah,
women,
that's
women
right.
read.
They do read more than men. I don't know if that's true.
What's in the news this week?
What's in the news this week?
So Elon says Apple has mostly stopped advertising on Twitter. Do they hate free speech in America?
Companies like Apple don't seem to care about Twitter a couple years ago when, like, back in 2015, they had like a stated public policy. This is before Trump, I guess, but their policy was like, hey, if someone's doing something illegal, call the cops. But otherwise, we're not taking down people's posts just because you don't like them. That was like basically their policy was like
That was Apple's policy? Oh,
yeah,
Twitter
like they
policy.
had the
Oh, it was Twitter's
abusive.
policy. I see.
Twitter's abusive behavior policy was
Right.
basically like people are posting what they want. It's free speech. But if you see something illegal or abusive, contact the police. That was kind of like their major
If you
policy.
feel law was broken, contact police. Other than that, the only real restriction was you can't directly threaten someone with violence.
Yeah.
So it was the same laws that apply to free speech in all,
Like
all
normal,
other
yeah.
areas of
Right.
life.
I am
right?
going
So-
to stab you right now. That's like
That's-
that's like an immediate threat on your life.
Well, it is if I believe.
But I could
you.
say Jarrett is worthy of stabbing, like in a
Right.
theoretical sense.
And right, or his ideas are worthy of
Yeah,
stabbing
like someone like Jarrett should be stabbed at some point.
at some point because of his thoughts.
I'm not saying you should stab Jarrett.
Wink, wink.
So they were basically saying that if someone's broken the law,
Right.
then we will take down their posts. But if until then, it's like just take care, just be adults, basically.
Well, it's the bandwagon thing. I think Apple's getting on the bandwagon with all these other companies. There's like a bunch of companies.
Yeah, like
a lot of companies have stopped.
Dude, Chevrolet.
Yeah, something like the top 100
like
advertisers on Twitter. They like half of his top advertisers stopped buying ads, I guess. So
What are they afraid of? What do they think is going to happen?
People are going to say things, I guess.
Are they think that the Nazis are coming?
It's all just public perception. It's all just this idea that Elon has created a space for right-wing extremism. Because it's only been in the last few years that it's even been expected that a social media platform would be some kind of arbiter of like what's acceptable speech and not. That's a very recent idea. like we were saying, like the policy in 2015 was very much a free speech platform. So it's just crazy that in the last few years that's become the norm, and it's just this Overton window that has shifted, I guess.
Did you guys listen to the Red Pilled America on Twitter?
I don't know what that is.
So Red Pilled America is a podcast that is really close to here. Actually, they are
I
located.
think Kyle
close
was
to here.
on it.
Yeah, you were on it at some point. And the Babylon Bee was featured in the Twitter conversation. They did the history
Twitter?
of Twitter.
I'm just
Never heard of it. Yeah. So anyway, if you guys are interested in the history of Twitter and how the free speech thing has happened and how they started shutting things down, that is a really, really great podcast to listen to. It's about I think it's four episodes, 4 1-hour episodes, and it's kind of it's one of those like serial podcasts, like
it's very well produced. They do a great
podcast.
job on it.
Yeah,
And the most recent controversy with this whole censorship thing was that they said they're no longer going to do the COVID-19 misinformation labels.
Oh, good.
Which was something I don't know if Musk announced that.
Oh
or
yeah,
Twitter announced that.
you post something and you have vaccine in there. It's like, did you know that experts? Yeah.
Which is, and I've seen some tweets where people were listing, well, here's 7 things that the COVID-19 misinformation used to say was misinformation. And they're all true, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's a good thing to get rid of this policy.
Right.
You know?
Well, they do the community notes now.
I
love those. Those are great because like people are fact checking the White House. People are fact checking Alyssa Milano.
Yeah.
It's like they'll post something crazy and it's like, did you know that some users are saying this? And it's like, oh, that's really helpul context.
It's a little context, yeah. And it's not saying like definitely what this person said is misinformation. It's like, here's another perspective. Like this is getting shared crazy viral, but that's not actually how the government works for these reasons. And then you can like look at the tweet and go, you know, it's not reducing the reach of their tweet at all. It's letting them say what they want to say.
Right.
So I kind of like that idea.
Did you see that the White House deleted that tweet? Where
It got fact-checked, yeah.
They were bragging about how like the cost of living increase for is it Social
senior
Security?
citizens or Social Security.
It's like it's gone up more than any other president. And it's like, well, it's because it's tied to inflation, you dummies. So like,
just this like fact check. That's because inflation is terrible.
Amazing. And the thing with Alyssa Milano, if we haven't talked about that already, is pretty amazing too.
Is that where she traded in her Tesla and
Yes,
she got
it's
a VW?
awesome. It's the best. Yeah, she trades in her Tesla.
I can't
for
be
a VW.
associated with a car company that is so closely tied to white supremacy.
That's right.
So I sold my Tesla and I got a VW.
A much
Which
less
was founded
controversial
by-
founder.
An anti-racist named Bob Volkswagen back in the 1930s.
That's right.
Who was running Germany in the 1930s?
Yeah, that's right. Adolf.
Somebody.
There's this great picture of Hitler like talking to like the VW people, and there's like a car model in front of him. I'm like, why would you not do like 5 seconds of research and be like,
it's incredible.
Oh, it's just incredible.
It's so great that
people just getting
she
slapped
could have
down.
picked any EV and she picked a VW, and that just makes it so wonderful.
Controversial founders.
But here's something encouraging. Chinese citizens are protesting in their nation over this zero COVID lockdown policy in the wake of a deadly apartment fire where COVID-19 protocols prevented emergency services from reaching those trapped in the fire. Is this the one where they welded shut all the doors?
Yeah.
I don't know if this particular place had the welded doors, but I know that they have been doing that. They basically tell people like, okay, your area is in a lockdown. No one can leave. And so like they just have to stay in their apartment. They can't go to work. They can't buy groceries. They can't go get medicine. It's like really brutal in these places. And I didn't hear about welded doors with this story, but there were things where like the firefighters, it took them 3 hours to put out the fire because it was on a multi-level apartment building. They couldn't get to them
because of the lockdown.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It's crazy.
They have these QR codes with their COVID passports. Whenever you try to enter a business or whatever, you have to scan your QR code and it goes, COVID detected if you have a red passport.
Oh, that's so terrible.
Yeah, that's so dystopian. It's crazy that we've arrived here in 2 years.
Are we going this route here? Is this going to happen?
Yeah, and you're going to have to get the thing in the palm of your hand or
That's
your
when
forehead.
the Antichrist comes.
And I'm sure your movie covers this extensively.
It talks about all of it.
Is that how the Antichrist talks?
Yes.
Was that the voice?
No.
Can you do the Antichrist voice for us? Was it just normal? Were you just American?
No, actually, it was a British voice. So sorry. So most of the time I was British, and then some of the time I was American. So
Wait, why would the Antichrist change nationality?
because when the devil takes over,
Oh, he's American.
British.
he's American, obviously.
No, the devil's American?
Obviously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Obviously.
The devil is Swedish. I am the devil.
The devil. No, that sounded like a different accent. No, it is crazy for me to be here.
They're like, why is you're like reading the script. Why is the devil
Try it
Indian?
again. Novice. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
You
right.
see this giant city of these quarantine camps that they're building? It's pretty crazy.
They kind of look like shipping
it's like
containers.
District
I saw
9.
numbers like 200,000, 90,000, 200,000. I'm sure they don't know the exact number of these compartments in one camp. That's nuts, man.
Crazy. It's like District 9. It really is like
Some of what I was reading was like the protesters that are out there, and they're obviously protesting. Some of them are even calling for Xi Jinping to step down, and they're protesting the lockdown policies. But I saw some reporting that these protesters are having their QR codes flag red, even though they're not.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So this is what you can do with that system, right?
So you're all locked down. You all have to go to quarantine now. It's like,
Yeah.
Just crazy. Well, like once the government can control your whole life, it's
Yeah,
like
do you
now,
think it's past the point of no return for China? Like even if these people revolted or something like that because they can't get food, they can't get access to things.
you don't mess with the communists, man.
Right,
They're going to roll in with tanks. Like they're not going to put up with it. So
China wouldn't roll up in a tank against a private citizen.
They would never roll over a student or something.
Well, here's our Babylon Bee banger of the week.
Treasure in heaven is great, but it's not going to buy you a tank of gas. So let's take a moment to briefly review the current state of our economy and the global effect the war between Russia and Ukraine has had. We're in for a tough year here, and Biden's printing and spending could be catastrophic for the US dollar and the market. That's why a growing number of financial analysts are recommending you diversify with gold and silver now. And the only company we recommend is Allegiance Gold. Our friends at Allegiance Gold can help you protect your IRA or 401k with physical gold and silver and have it delivered securely right to your door. The team at Allegiance Gold takes the time to educate their clients on the importance of having a financial portfolio that's diversified with gold and silver. Allegiance Gold has been one of the top precious metals firms in the nation for their commitment to protecting your hard-earned savings. They have an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, a 5-star rating with TrustLink, and they're AAA rated with the Business Consumer Alliance. If you act now by calling them and you mention Babylon Bee, they'll even give you $500 of free silver on a qualified purchase. Call 844-790-9191 to get this exclusive offer. Or you can visit allegiancegold.com/B. That's B-E-E. Call 844-790-9191. That's 844-790-9191. Or visit allegiancegold.com/BEE.
Banger of the week.
Celebrities cut ties with Balenciaga after MyPillow spotted it in photo shoot. Now, if you don't know the context for this, there was an ad with this disturbed-looking child with certain gear around her, like weird stuff, and then also a bear that...
It's all bondage gear.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, that's why it's a big deal.
She's holding a teddy bear, or has it around her neck or something, that is like wearing fishnets and collars
like
and
straps,
leather straps.
Black leather straps.
And yeah, it doesn't look like a happy bear.
Well, and they wonder why we use the term groomer.
And yeah, that's nuts. And there was a couple other ads that Balenciaga put out with this, and I just don't...
There's a couple different layers to that process, I'm assuming. Like someone has to produce it, someone has to approve it, someone has to line it up on the marketing and be like, okay, this ad goes out here, this ad goes out there. How do they claim like we had nothing to do with this? We have no idea. We have no idea who produced this. Right. Why would someone make this with our label on it? Like,
no idea.
That's exactly what they claim too. Did you see their statement? It was, we're considering legal action against this photographer for doing this. You know, like, we don't know how this happened. I'm like, there's no way that an ad that's worth, that a company that's worth, I'm assuming hundreds of millions of dollars at least, isn't like, doesn't go to a photographer and say, here's the art direction for the shoot. And then they get the photographs back and it's like, no, we don't like this. We want, this and that. It's no way they don't have a rep on site. Like, I don't understand.
They're known for doing this kind of stuff. Like they're known for being kind of, salacious or, pushing the edge.
Yeah.
And so doing this is definitely within the character of the company.
Like if we asked a graphic designer, an outside graphic designer to make us our Calvinist Santa mug and it came back with a kid holding a teddy bear in bondage gear, we wouldn't then put it out and go, oh, it's weird that the photographer would do that.
Yeah, we're so mad. I'm so mad about this.
I'm very upset.
I did not see this coming. Yeah.
So insane. And I'm a QAnon believer now. Pizzagate, QAnon, I'm on board with all of it at this point. At this point, you're a conspiracy theorist if you don't think that they're all satanic pedophiles.
But they're a bunch of satanic... Well, I think it's interesting, too, that they're trying to push back on the term groomer because that is the word that is being... Like, people that are trying to expose children to this stuff, they are groomers. And then they're saying that it's somehow not true or this is like somehow a slam against the LGBTQ community. It's like, no. There are people that are trying to expose kids to this stuff. Yeah. And those are actually groomers. Like, what are we...
The battle is always over language.
It's always over language.
It's like
right?
1984. Mm-hmm. They can control the language. They can control the debate. And so like we have the perfect word to describe what's going on, groomer. And then like all of a sudden it's banned on social media and you can't say it. And
well, it's not a blanket statement for the entire LGBTQ. community. This is not a blanket statement. This is about the people that are particularly exposing children to
Right,
this.
whatever our disagreements are with the LGBTQ, with gay people, whatever our disagreements are with people like that, it's like, whatever we disapprove with the lifestyle, from a biblical standpoint, there is a sizable chunk of the gay community that is like, well, we just made this decision in our adulthood, or people that want to be drag queens are like, why would you take this to children? It's not, not what it's for. It's not for children,
Right.
And I think you can acknowledge that that's a good thing, at least. So
At least there's separation.
the separation from
Yeah.
that, yeah.
At least we can use the G word on Twitter now.
Did you
Gay
just say?
or groomer?
Yeah. You said it was a good thing, and I wanted to make sure we knew
Don't say
what
groomer.
you were talking about.
Well, we also had a bomb of the week.
Bomb of the week.
So this was the bomb of the week. Man hits fitness goal of only gaining 9 pounds over Thanksgiving weekend.
I like that one.
Look at that guy's
Surprised I
face.
didn't do better.
Look at this. Look at
Was
this.
this autobiographical of anybody?
I don't know who wrote that. I don't remember who pitched this one, but I agree. Like this is definitely. I gained, I think, 5 pounds.
That's a pretty good gain.
But it's not like,
gain.
but when you weigh in immediately after like a big eating weekend or whatever, a lot of that is simply water weight that's going to go away. Like,
Right.
especially you're doing low carb, it'll come back down.
Yeah, it's
what I keep
water,
telling myself
water
anyway.
retention, salt. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why people gain weight in a.
It's actually very difficult to gain 5 pounds in like 2 days. It's not.
5 pounds of fat is impossible to gain
Right.
in
Yeah,
2
exactly.
days.
That's what I'm saying.
Impossible.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I gained a few pounds though. I gained a couple pounds, like 2 or 3. I did eat a lot though. It was good.
I did. I loved Thanksgiving, man.
Yeah.
What a great holiday.
What a great holiday.
thankful for it.
I think it might be my favorite. I like Christmas too, but
Yeah.
I really like Thanksgiving.
All right. Well, speaking of a lot of food you can eat, it is time for Sizzler Facts.
20 weeks ago, we debuted a new feature to the podcast called Sizzler Facts. Today's Sizzler Fact is that the Sizzler Steakhouse in Sparks, Nevada, unexpectedly closed after 40 years in business on November 14th, 2022. According to the Reno Gazette-Journal, Sizzler, a national steakhouse chain with nearly 100 restaurants, has unexpectedly shuttered its Sparks location. Shuttered. A sign on the door of 15 East Prater Way store in Sparks announced to dismayed diners that the Sizzler had permanently closed. There's a picture right there. We are permanently closed.
Well, let's pause for a minute on this picture. Can we go back
up? We're
I said let's pause on this picture, and the notes immediately scrolled away from it. Whatever I say, they just do the opposite.
Joel Starr,
silence.
owner.
Like this picture though is just so beautiful. Like we have these 2 box frames that are just kind of not quite aligned correctly, and then we have just kind of a basic Arial font, and then the "We are permanently closed" is in a non-bold pink. Like Times New Roman style font with random capitalization. We regret to announce we are permanently closed. We are extremely grateful for all of our guests and crew members' support for over 40 years here in Sparks. We enjoyed serving each and every one of our guests. We will miss all of you and wish you the very best. Joel Starr, owner. Think maybe we could get Joel Starr on the podcast?
Yeah, if we can find him.
Star is a hero.
It just seems like a sort of an afterthought. This was like, we got to shut down.
And it's just suddenly, it seemed
Can
like,
you put this together real quick to put on the door?
yeah, I just printed it out. It's very sad. So,
Very
very
sad.
sad.
Very sad.
well, this has been Sizzler
Sizzler
Facts.
Facts.
And now it's time for a new segment called Dan-splaining. This is where Dan gets to talk about something that's on his mind for a minute or two, and we can maybe pick his brain. So, Dan, why don't you take it away? The first forever segment of
What have you been thinking about, Dan?
All right.
Dan-splaining.
So something I've been thinking about recently is that if you go to Denny's, Denny's is the all-American diner. You can still go there and get a full breakfast for $5.99. It's a great deal. It's a great value. You get pancakes, eggs, and your choice of either bacon or sausage, and it's still only $5.99.
does it include hash browns?
There
There are no hash browns,
no
so
hash
that's
browns.
the deal.
With the value, which one is this?
It's the extra, or it's the everyday value slam.
Everyday value slam. Okay.
Oh, it's not. It's the. Remember when it was like $3.99 or you out of your mind? Remember that commercial?
Yeah, so that might have been $3.99 like 20 years ago, but it's still $5.99, which I think is still
Pretty amazing.
it's still a pretty good deal.
That's a good deal.
So that's what's been on my mind is that there are places out
wanna-
there that are still putting out value.
So how long has it been $5.99 for?
That's a good question.
I'm
We
curious
should- we should
when you
find
look
out.
in the inflation. like what kind of a deal we're getting. Like they have to be losing money on the $5.99 deal. Do you
Well, in the last 2 years, the inflation's gone up 16%.
Right.
So we can incorporate that. And then before that, the inflation was probably increasing at a much slower rate, probably 3% a year.
I'm a big fan of Denny's. I think Denny's is a great, like, anytime. Like, I'll do it for dinner. I'll do it for lunch.
Yeah, I hopped over there for lunch a couple days ago, and I'm like, everyday value slam.
Really rubbing it in an IHOP space there.
But I went over there and I had lunch. I tipped the guy a nice tip, and I'm like, hey, I'm still out for, what was it, like $8 or whatever? Like, this is cool.
Last time I was
yeah, I
there,
guess
there
with
was
tip,
a bunch of goth kids, and it was a long time ago.
That $5.99 is cheaper than, like, McDonald's. And you got to understand that's cheaper than going to McDonald's and getting a $12 combo.
Right, because their combo meals are all like $11.
It doesn't include drink, but still.
Sure.
That's crazy.
Now, one thing I did find out doing a little quick research, my wife cued me onto this, is that Denny's, when they had this $5.99 deal, they promoted it by selling 150 T-shirts that are Denny's T-shirts with a QR code. And if you were able to get one of these 150 T-shirts, you could go into Denny's, they scan your QR code, and they give you an everyday value slam for free.
Forever?
It's like for like the whole year or something like that. So you can go in like once a day for an entire year and get breakfast for free.
Man, that's awesome.
It's a great
So
deal.
I thought that was cool.
I want one of those.
Yeah.
I mean, so the potential value, is it any breakfast or you always get the,
I think it's the everyday value slam. I don't think you can just go in and order like $100 worth
so
of
$6 times 365. What's that?
It adds
$21,000? So
It
that's
adds up.
that shirt's worth 21 grand.
So do you think someone's selling it on eBay right now for $20,000?
You think because someone might pay 10 grand for it or 5 grand because you never. It's rare that you would get the full value out of it.
Right.
To be
You would also have to really plan to be close to a Denny's. You'd have to be planning to be there every day.
They did that. They do those sometimes promotions, occasional promotions where they'll do I think it's the everyday value slam, and they'll do it for free. Like there's that one day of the year where it's like free grand slam, free breakfast slams or
we
whatever.
should all go.
So when we were routing when you and I were routing trucks in the warehouse, there was we were routing delivery. We were routing delivery trucks for a living.
That's before you were at the B.
Yeah, we were routing delivery trucks for a living, and there was like some hot morning delivery, and I'm like, none of the trucks are showing up, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I'm like radioing the drivers and blah, blah, blah. So I go pull up the GPS map, and like all of our drivers are at Denny's waiting for the free Grand Slam meal. And I'm like, you guys have a freaking construction drop off at,
Wow.
So that's my story.
They're like, we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
This has been mansplaining.
Dan-splaining.
Well, I'm a man, so I got to add on, so I'm mansplaining.
Oh, have you used that joke before?
No, I don't think so. Maybe.
Wow. Now, you're manspreading.
That's our new segment. It's
Manspreading too. That's good.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, this has been the first edition of Dan-splaining. I thought that was fascinating.
I loved that. That was really good.
We'll get some more. Give us your feedback on Dan-splaining and let us know any other topics you'd like Dan to Dan-splain. All right, now it's time for another semi-new segment called Sports Ball Update. All right, so for today's Sports Ball Update, the World Cup is happening. We wanted to give you guys a little information on how soccer works.
I had no idea.
Did you not know that?
No, I didn't know.
Are you being...
No, it's true. I really didn't know. Tell me more.
I got feeling I was playing a character.
This is why we have this update, Kyle. It's very important.
Okay, all right.
It's important for those of us who have no idea about what's going on in
So
soccer.
the World Cup is happening. It's a big tournament thing that happens in soccer.
I know what the World Cup is.
Oh, I'm explaining. This is our sports ball fact.
Oh, sorry.
It's a big tournament thing that happens in soccer once every so many years. The teams fight against each other to see who is the best. The team that scores the most goals each game wins. And I wanted maybe one detail about soccer we can talk about. This is just an interesting sports ball fact to me. Offsides is this rule. So if you see, they'll call offsides sometimes, and that's a rule where if you pass it to the player, you pass it to someone who's not in the right area or something. Or like the wrong guy.
It applies in hockey too.
If you pass it,
I never understood it.
then your team gets in trouble and they probably do something to you. Like you probably get a whistle or something.
I know offsides in football.
Yeah, this isn't.
American
football, right?
American football.
It's different in soccer.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, this has been Sports Ball Update. We hope this was helpful.
Did you know that in the rest of the world they call soccer football?
Oh, that's cool.
That would have been a good fact.
That would have been good.
Isn't that weird?
That would have been good for our Sports Ball
Football.
Update.
Yeah.
I really like football.
That's just really weird.
All right. Well, now we're going to talk about the recent saga where the Babylon Bee got restored to Twitter gloriously. We're a little late on this, but that's because we pre-recorded our Thanksgiving episode and then it all happened so fast and we didn't have time to tack that on.
It did happen fast.
But it was a Thanksgiving miracle.
It was.
Well, we just want to take a moment for a little bit of a victory lap. It's pretty crazy to get restored to Twitter, and it seems like it was part of the reason that all of this even happened, So
yeah,
pretty crazy. So there's kind of a little breakdown of what happened. In March, we reposted a joke granting Rachel Levine our coveted Man of the Year award.
That's nice.
Which is an honor.
It's a nice honor.
Now, a little known fact, we had posted this joke to Twitter a couple of times because we usually repost jokes on the weekend. So I think we had done an original post which didn't get flagged as hate speech. Then we reposted it on Saturday, and that post got flagged as hate speech. So we had a couple of tweets floating around, and I think the original one we posted stayed up. They never flagged, it was still on Twitter. So they did this whole thing of suspending us and hiding the tweet and all this, but you could still see the joke on Twitter because it was still on our timeline from earlier.
It's weird.
So interesting.
That is an interesting fact.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that was still up. I know.
Yeah. So on March 21st, we were suspended from Twitter. We were never actually banned from Twitter. We could have gotten back on at any time if we only would bow down to the LGBT flag while the music played.
Yeah, we would log in and they would not let you post, and it would have a pop-up. It'd be like, would you like to, delete your offensive tweet?
Yeah.
And we decided, as a company, the leadership of our company, Seth and Kyle and Dan and Adam, they're like, you know what? We're not going to do that.
No.
And that was, that was a stand that they took, and they decided, you know what, whatever traffic we're getting from Twitter onto our website, it's not worth us having to apologize for a joke. We told a joke. So
we kind of drew a line in the sand. It was a little bit of a moment, It was. Have you guys ever seen The Three Amigos with Steve Martin and Chevy Chase?
Oh yeah.
I'm drawing a line. Men are mice. That's what it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Men are mice. And then they walk. And then I think when Steve Martin grabs his, or maybe it's Chevy Chase, when one of them pulls up their holsters, they accidentally shoot the ground.
That's right.
But we had a lot of pressure even from people that agree with us. They're like, well, why don't you just delete the tweet? What's the big deal? Just delete it and get back on. Who cares? And
I would suggest that they drew the line with that. I think they drew the line, and then we said,
well, we kind of drew a line.
Crossing the line.
They drew a line, and then we walked to this side and drew our own line. And we were like, no, we're not.
No, our line is over here.
Line? What is the line of your life is the question.
The question is, are you willing to sacrifice who you are?
But I think I'm drawing a line in the sand means this is where I'm taking a stand. So I think we drew the line. They are the line. No, they're the sand. Twitter's the sand.
I would say...
And we're the line.
They're the sandbox.
They are the sandbox, and we drew the line in the sand.
Sometimes, though, other people draw the line, and you cannot cross onto their side.
Sure. So maybe they drew a line, and we said, we're not playing.
So because they took a stand and said, we won't let this stand.
Well, I think it was just the element of
we're not going to bow to you.
I think it was the element to making us delete the tweet. If they had deleted the tweet and flagged us and said, hey, don't do that, that's one thing.
You just say, what are you going to do?
But if they make you click the button that says, I admit I was a hateful bigot and I did, okay.
I worship Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's part of it for me, where it was like, if we had done that, that would have been like sacrificing a part of us to be like.
So we did draw a line.
Being on Twitter is more important than admitting, hey, I'm not racist. Hey, I'm not a bigot. Hey, I don't hate trans people. Hey, I'm not going to say I'm a bigot if I'm not.
Yeah. I don't agree with your categories.
Right.
I don't agree with the language you're using. Or
So-
the labels.
Elon then started talking about buying Twitter, leading to a months-long drama and threatening lawsuits and all kinds of stuff, which left our account in limbo. We were there was a few times there we were like, did we make the right decision? Because I don't know what's going to happen here. And but finally, in late October, Musk finalized the deal. And we were still in the dark as to what was happening over there. We didn't really know, is our account going to get restored or what? And finally, on November 18th, we were freed with our now iconic tweet, "We're back, let that sink in." Now, this was super interesting to me. The Washington Post recently ran the story. They reported that Musk's first priority was to free the Babylon Bee. This is crazy. You have the richest guy in the world walking into the social media site. He's like, all right, who banned the Babylon Bee? Let's get him back on.
Yeah.
So here's what the Washington Post reported. Hours after Elon Musk took control of Twitter in late October, the trust and safety team responsible for combating hate speech on the site received an urgent directive. Bring back the Babylon Bee.
Yes, dude.
To some Twitter employees, the order was troubling. The self-described Christian satirical site had been banned since March for refusing to delete a tweet naming Biden health official Rachel Levine its Man of the Year. Levine is a transgender woman, and the tweet violated a 2018 rule prohibiting Twitter users from targeting transgender people by referring to them by the name or gender they used before transitioning. To Musk, the suspension was emblematic of the kind of liberal overreach he has vowed to purge from the platform. In a small kitchen on the second floor of the company's San Francisco headquarters, he huddled with his lawyer, Alex Spiro, trust and safety lead Yoel Roth, another Twitter employee, and a Tesla employee to discuss the suspension. While the Babylon Bee's tweet was not cool, Musk told them, it also wasn't sticks and stones, violent threats that he argued should be the new standard for who gets booted.
I kind of think there's a couple things I'm thinking. First of all, that tweet was really cool. So I disagree with Elon. And
I wonder too how much of that reporting got, because he's like, hey, look, if you say something about like to target someone like that, maybe that's not cool. But at the same time, you're not threatening them with violence. That shouldn't be bannable. Mm-hmm. So I think Elon thinks the joke is hilarious.
He's going back to the 2015, rule.
Yeah.
It's
you
like,
can say things
you
can be a jack.
Donkey.
Right.
You just can't say like, therefore we should go target this person with, abuse and stuff.
Right. Back to the law, the actual law.
The law, yes. Elon says, I am the law. Like Jesus in The Chosen.
He was Mormonized.
Well, I think that's really cool. It's just a really cool story of, I think, standing up for something that we believed in and maybe having made some kind of societal change because of it. That's pretty neat.
We changed the world.
All I'm trying to say, I'm not saying that we're heroes.
But, yeah. I do think it's interesting that his first priority going in, like he walks in on day one with the big giant sink, and he puts the sink down. He's like,
that's over.
All right, who fired the bee? Who got them suspended?
What's your name?
What's your name? Who did it?
Steve? It was Steve. Did you do it?
Bring me Steve. Bring me this Steve character.
Bring me Steve's head on a platter.
And the other part of it too that's interesting to me is it took him a while to get us back onto Twitter. It wasn't immediate. It took him about a month, right?
Yeah.
So you got to imagine like the infested nest of vipers that he stepped into at Twitter.
He didn't I don't know if he realized like I show up and it's just gonna be. I mean, maybe he did. Maybe he didn't.
Yeah, but I mean, they ended up fighting like that guy that we just mentioned, Yoel Roth. He's gone.
Yeah, a lot of
all of the head people are gone. It was like half the company, right? Like 3,000 employees or something.
Yeah.
I think for Elon though, he was being politic. He was trying to be a good. He was trying to be a good leader, and he was trying to go slow. He wasn't trying to just come in and like be autocratic.
I saw him post a tweet where he was basically saying that he had made a deal with these activists that were threatening to boycott Twitter, threatening to like get all the advertisers to boycott Twitter. And he's like, okay, well, if I come up with this council that's all these different viewpoints to come together and make these decisions on who's banned and who's not and what goes against policy. He's like, if I do that, will you not boycott the company? And all the activists go, yes. But then they did it anyway. They got all these companies to boycott Twitter. So he's like, okay, well, fine. I'm just going to put people back on Twitter then.
Yeah, that's so crazy to kind of see a little glimpse of the inner workings of what all happened there. So,
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys for your support, especially our subscribers. Our paying subscribers are really the ones that kept us afloat. I mean, we did sacrifice a ton of traffic and reach by not being on Twitter for that long. So thank you guys. You guys are the reason we're able to do this. And if you want to join us, please, babylonbee.com/plans. You can help support us as we continue to put out some comedy and maybe slightly change the world.
Cool.
Well, now Jared is going to talk with Brandon Showalter. I nailed it.
You did. He's from the Christian Post about his new investigative podcast on the battle over transgender ideology. The podcast is actually called Generation Indoctrination Inside the Transgender Battle, and it was a great conversation. I got a little impassioned.
He was fired up, man.
He was fired up. Yeah. I was fired up. It was a great conversation.
I haven't heard it yet, so I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Americans are discovering that if we want to change the nation, we have to change the way the marketplace works. And that change starts with you, with your local communities, and with your wallet. Be deliberate with your dollars and reject woke corporations. Imagine a world in which every single dollar you spend would go towards companies that share your values for life, liberty, and patriotism. Now with the Public Square app, you can. Public SQ, or Public Square, is an app and website that connects freedom-loving Americans to the community and companies that share their values. Engage in a nationwide platform with the largest directory of patriotic businesses and consumers, all while accessing exclusive savings at businesses that see the world the way you do. The marketplace is free to join for consumers and business owners alike. To get started and shop your values, download the Public Square app from the App Store or Google Play, or click on the link in the video description.
And now for another interview on The Bee Weekly.
All right. Hey, guys. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to the interview show. Very excited to have Brandon Showalter of the Christian Post on today. Thank you so much for joining us. Where are you calling in from today?
I actually called in from, I'm home for Thanksgiving, so I'm in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia.
Ooh, that's cool. I was just in Virginia a couple of months ago, and it was really nice. It's nice out there. Is it cold right now? Pretty crazy, huh?
Pretty cold, but it's very nice. The valley is always wonderful.
Yeah, it's getting down to about 68 here, so it's really, really hard for us in California. So anyway, you're doing a 5-part podcast that we want to talk about today, Generation Indoctrination Inside the Transgender Battle. This is a very, very important topic, and I'm excited that you're doing this. It's a documentary style. It's an investigative series, kind of like Red Pilled America, if you haven't checked that out, right? Isn't it kind of like that? It's a storytelling podcast a little bit.
Storytelling podcast, many contributors, audio-only documentary style investigative podcast series, 5 installments.
Man,
Yes.
okay. I'm going to listen to this. I'm very excited about it. My wife and I are going to listen to it. So I can't wait. So thank you so much for coming on. So why make a 5-part investigative podcast about the transgender battle?
Well, this is not isolated to just a few people on the margins, as most people have thought in recent years. We started covering these issues in a lot of depth several years ago, soon after I started at Christian Post in 2016, and I realized just how this ideology had made an incursion into every sphere of life. There's not a single area of culture where this insanity infects and just brings ruinous corruption. The worst part, I think, is what's happening to children in the schools and medical facilities. And so a lot of parents that get in touch with us at CP say things to us like, we never thought something like this could happen to our family or to our kids. Secular parents, people who don't agree with the Christian Post on much, they're finding themselves reading our coverage because we won't gaslight people with wrong pronouns or use the euphemisms that the gender activists employed throughout legacy media, the mainstream press. And so we decided, it's time to really go in depth with a podcast series where if people haven't been reading our print coverage, they can at least hear from people who have been in the trenches fighting the good fight for sound biomedical ethics, resisting this ideology wherever they can. And so we've done that. We're going to be doing a bonus episode here soon on the prisons issue. Yeah. I guess I can announce that. But we did decide, because of how a generation of young people is being indoctrinated, we were going to specifically look at how this was affecting our children in the schools, in the medical institutions. And we provided some sort of background history and philosophy and some other sort of supplementary expertise from people. It's a very thorough but succinct series.
Now you're talking about the trans, so you're going through all the history of the trans movement, the transhumanistic philosophy, how that's entering into schools, the indoctrination factories that schools are becoming, essentially, reality denial. Like, this is a crazy, crazy time and a crazy philosophy that we're actually blanket teaching our children across the United States, across the world even. And so standing up to this is extremely important. I love what you're doing. And you said that this new one, you're going into the 3-part addendum to what you're doing. You're going into the prison system and just the stories. You're saying the stories are just insane. It's just crazy right now.
Yes, I've done 3 interviews. For now, we're just going to do one bonus episode or under discussion to do some more on these issues. But I've done 3 interviews with advocates who are advocating for women who are in prison. And because in Canada and in the US, this gender identity, this false category of personhood has been infecting state laws and regulations with regard to prisons. Men now, on the basis of their self-declaration, are allowed to invade women's correctional facilities, including rapists and murderers and hardened criminals. they're putting these poor women who are incarcerated, many of whom have a history of drug problems and domestic abuse, through an absolute grinding, torturous.
Jackwagon.
I was just shaking. I had a Twitter thread that went viral the other day where I was explaining just what it was like hearing from one of the advocates and how these women are just being put through the meat grinder, and just the utter
Turnip.
that it is. And this contravenes, in my mind, the breaking of every boundary and violation of any sort of sane human rights standard. Under the Geneva Convention, it's prohibited to house prisoners together when sort of in a war enemy combatant context. Well, if that doesn't apply here, then I don't think human rights has any meaning anymore. But that's what this ideology does. It indoctrinates children into insanity. It forces an unreality, and it's responsible for one of the worst medical and child abuse scandals the world has ever seen.
This is crazy. Well, and it's amazing that people are turning a blind eye to the negative effects of all the stuff that's going on. Like, obviously, the hormones have a negative effect on people when they take them too early. The puberty blockers are essentially castrating people. And like, this is a crazy, crazy problem that nobody wants to talk about, and I don't understand it. I don't understand why people aren't just standing up and talking about this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And what's been harder for me to deal with, even aside from the horrors of this, I'm so proud of my publication and my editors who have backed me up completely. And my colleagues have also done some really good reporting on these things. But with some noble exceptions, of course, churches are not speaking out with the kind of prophetic witness that the hour demands. I mean, if the church can't stand up to this insane child abuse, what is the church even for? I mean, I think Jesus would be passing out millstones left and right these days. He has some very strong words for people who harm children. And what could be more cruel than castrating them with drugs in pursuit of a physiological impossibility? What could possibly be more wrong than cutting off physically healthy body parts? I can show you peer-reviewed medical journal citations where girls as young as 13 have had their breasts amputated. Boys as young as 15 have had their genitals amputated. These most just disgusting, disfiguring surgeries. And God bless the detransitioners who are finally starting to put their heads above the parapet now. There've been a lot of stories and even increasingly mainstream coverage of them in 2022. And so we're starting to see them make some noise, but this never should have been allowed to happen. This is objectively anti-science. You don't carve up the body in pursuit of a lie. You can't become the opposite sex. And this medicalization, I don't even like to call it medicine, is completely experimental. And when the history of this is written, I think people are going to be shocked by the scope of the carnage, but we won't be at the Christian Post.
Yes, you guys will not be, neither will we at the Babylon Bee. We know that this is evil at its core, and we are willing to stand with you and fight against this too. I think it's an awful time. It's an awful thing. And if we are not, who else is going to stand up? If Christians can't stand up for real things and for children, then what are we doing? We're just messing around. And remember when they said it was a slippery slope fallacy? Do you remember this? And Obergefell and all that stuff. Everyone's like, oh, it's not going to affect anything. It's just going to stay this, and this will be where it stops. And it's like, well, we kind of predicted this, didn't we?
Well, the whole revolution everybody was mocking many Christians who talked about the slippery slope. And I sometimes say that the slippery slope is a near vertical, thick sheet of ice that's been slathered in grease, because they were just going down. I mean, and as evidence for that, I don't know if you've seen in the recent days, and Balenciaga, the luxury company, just put out that ad where it was marketing a toddler holding a teddy bear wearing bondage gear. And then there was some documents with the Supreme Court case, Ashcroft versus Free Speech Coalition, I believe, which was a ruling that struck down a child porn regulation or something like that. They just apologized, but we're seeing the normalization of pedophilia happening right before our eyes. The interesting thing about the trans issue is, though I am absolutely a believer in our faith's historic teaching on marriage and sexual ethics, I've got gays and lesbians in my inbox all the time ready to scream with me, because they are vehemently opposed to this transing of children. Some of these kids are same-sex attracted, and I'll be the first to say that treating same-sex attraction with hormones ought to be a crime. There's a lot of people from a broad variety of perspectives are finally waking up to what's going on, and they're standing up and being counted and saying, no, not on our watch.
And the problem is, it's the activists too. So it's not even these people that are going through this. It's not the people that are struggling with gender dysphoria It's not the people in the LGBTQ community that are being taken advantage of, and their money is going to these organizations. It's these activists that are getting in there and
at the helms of the organizations, a
Yes.
very top-down kind of thing. I remember a few years ago, I was talking with some gays and lesbians in DC, where I live, and they told me it was as though the organizations that they thought they supported all along had totally betrayed them. And again, even as I believe very deeply in our faith's teaching on sexual ethics and marriage. Like, I'm totally willing to talk to anybody. And let's have a conversation, because I don't want to see anybody harmed by this. I really don't. And so I'm going to extend the hand across the aisle and, pursue good ends and goodwill. And people never thought that they would be quoted in the Christian Post, but look, the truth is true no matter who says it. And so
That's right.
we will extend the invitation to speak with us, because
Yes.
we see the medical atrocity that it is.
I love it. I love that you guys are willing to do that. I think it's important because there are people on the other side of the aisle, people that are, for us, we're conservatives, but if there's people on the other side that are classical liberals, there's even progressives that are against this. And so we do need to stand together, because it is a terrible human rights violation. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Man, I love that.
And our podcast series spells a lot of that out. I mean, I interview a broad range of people, and we're the Christian Post. We are not ashamed of the gospel. But if people listen to this series, they'll see that we try to be a very analytical, even-handed. We've got conservative people, liberal people, a wide range of experts, pediatric endocrinologist, family doctor, a bioethicist, a historian of gender. We go deep, again, succinct but thorough.
That's wonderful. Did you have Abigail Schreier in there anywhere? Did she interview you guys?
Abigail, I have great respect for her. Her book is so important. I didn't interview her for this particular podcast series. I've interviewed her before, wrote a review of her book, Irreversible Damage, when it came out. We did interview Abigail Favale, who's an important voice, who wrote a book called The Genesis of Gender, a Christian Theory, which came out earlier this year. But she really unpacks a lot of the history of where this ideology came from and how it's developed.
Now, that's actually an interesting question. Are there resources or books that our followers should be reading too? Like, we'll listen to this podcast. I think we need to be educated on this. I really do. I think everybody that's listening needs to be educated on this issue. What are some really good resources that they can turn to?
Well, you mentioned Irreversible Damage by Abigail Schreier. That really highlights how this is a social contagion, and it's disproportionately impacting teenage girls. Girls are bearing a very cruel brunt of this. Ryan Anderson's book, When Harry Became Sally, was a few years before that, and that really sort of paved the way in some important ways. I would also recommend a book called Unraveling Gender by John Grabowski. He is a professor of theology at the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C., and that's where I went to graduate school. He's a great guy. Cool. I'm not a Catholic, but I went there for graduate school. His book is very succinct but thorough as well. He wrote his PhD on sex and gender many, many years ago, and I think God has raised him up for this time. He's got very important things to say. Unraveling Gender, The Battle Over Sexual Difference is what that book is called. I mentioned Abigail Favale, The Genesis of Gender. There are truth tellers out there. I think Mary Hassan is another author. Mary Hassan and Teresa Farnan, they've written a book about how this has impacted the schools called Get Out Now, where they're basically urging parents to take their kids out of public school. Maybe you don't agree with doing that, and you want, for whatever reason, maybe your school system isn't as corrupted, but I think if you do allow your kids to go to public school, you've got to watch it like a hawk and fight back against these gender ideologues who are trying to push this confusion on children. Because they're even in very conservative districts where you wouldn't expect it. In fact, here in the Shenandoah Valley, I just met with someone who's resisting that in her own way, because these policies are happening even in very conservative areas. This is unconscionable. Yeah,
the public school system is essentially an indoctrination center. And you're right. You do have to pay attention. I'm not advocating for everybody to pull out, but I agree with you. Thank you so much. This is so informative. I am so excited about this podcast. I'm definitely going to be listening. My wife and I are going to be listening to it. Brandon, you are one of those voices. You said that there's people that are standing up. You are truth tellers. You are one of those truth tellers, and we want to be standing right next to you when the smoke clears. So thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate it. And to those of you who are listening to this and you're hesitant about saying anything about this, maybe you're feeling that kind of internal questioning of, should I say something? If you're silent about this, I'm just going to say to you, your silence will soon be your regret, because this is a medical scandal. And I do believe that God, in his infinite wisdom and providential way, he's going to dethrone this wickedness. He's going to destroy this evil. And I think you want to be on the side that you spoke up when you needed to.
I agree with that. That's awesome. Thank you, Brandon, so much. Brandon Showalter of the Christian Post. His podcast is Generation Indoctrination Inside the Transgender Battle. Please check it out. It's extremely important for you guys to know about this. Thank you, Brandon, for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
That was beautiful.
So much passion.
Oh, the passion. I'm just kidding. I haven't watched it. I'll watch it when it comes out. When you guys watch, I'll see it when you guys see it. All right, now it is time for hate mail.
I really miss Adam Ford.
Okay, so we put out a little context. We had an article from like April or May or something. Stephen King estate reveals he died years ago, and his Twitter account is being run by a mentally ill, glue-sniffing parrot with Tourette's. And there's a nice picture of, that's actually my parrot. That's Penny, my blue-throated macaw.
Those are all your Stephen King books.
And I have some, I love Stephen King. He's one of my favorite authors, and he's standing there next to his book, Stephen King books, and what is it? It's an actual tweet from Stephen King. Lock him up, lock him up, lock him up.
Yeah, so you have this guy who's a brilliant writer who has written really good stories that people love.
Yeah, right.
And then you check his Twitter account and it's like,
just frothing at the mouth. It's crazy. Do you remember the one he did about DeSantis where he's like, he should be called Dumb Santas or something, like Poo-Poo Santa? Like he had some, like Doo-Doo Santa. He had some, I don't remember what exactly it was, but he had something like that where it's just like, whoa.
It's like something like a fifth grader would come up with. And be like nailed him. Yeah.
It's just, he got so weird, and he's become such a weird lefty. Because his books, you would never get that sense. You don't get the sense that he kind of...
His politics did infiltrate his books later on.
Later on.
You had a little bit of politics early on, especially with Dead Zone, which was one about like a politician running, and you could kind of tell the evil politician was like a Republican. You could kind of tell a little bit. There's like little political things inserted, but it's not much. And then later on, you read some of his recent books. He had a specific line about Trump in his book, The Institute, I think. It was like randomly thrown in at the end of the chapter because the orange man, blah, just like, you're just like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you just
that's sad.
It's sad because he's a good writer.
And he's getting old, so maybe that's it. Maybe he's just going senile.
It's possible. I think ever since his car accident in '99, he hasn't really written a great book. Maybe one or two that are close. The one about the JFK assassination was really good. The Shining.
Okay.
Carrie, Misery, The Dark Tower, Drawing of the Three.
The Drawing of the Three specifically in The Dark Tower.
Well, no, The Dark Tower, the first one. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Gunslinger.
Is
and then The Drawing of the Three. And then what was the book 2 of that series? Was it Drawing of the Three or was it...
The Doors? Was that the one about the Doors?
That was Drawing of the Three, and then there was one other. I forget. The name is blanking me right now.
Yeah.
The one right before, like Wizard and Glass. Those two were awesome.
Yes.
I like a lot of his early work. I love Pet Sematary. I'd probably put Pet Sematary.
You have to have read, in order to really enjoy the Dark Tower series, you have to have read those early works too.
Some.
Like The Stand, especially. You have to have read
some, sure.
Actually, I like The Stand.
Yeah, I don't think it's strictly necessary, but the later as you get in the books, the more. So just so you know, in the Dark Tower series, Stephen King actually got hit by a car in 1989.
Oh, wow.
And he writes into the Dark Tower series that these characters come and save him from the dying in the car accident.
Oh, wow.
So he's in the...
He's in the series.
Okay.
Spoilers.
Well, in the Dark Tower, they go from...
It's very meta. They meet him as the creator.
Oh, okay.
So universe to universe to universe.
They jump their universe hopping, and it's like this...
Of all of his universes that he's created.
All of this to say is that when you tell a joke...
He's a weirdo.
When you tell a joke about Stephen King, it's coming from a place of, I love Stephen King's books.
Why is he so crazy on Twitter?
Yeah, so that's where you're coming from, a place of love, right?
Yeah. So anyway, the article did really well on Facebook when we posted it.
Right.
And we've probably reposted it a couple times. It does well. People like it. It's done well on Twitter a couple of times, and we when we've shared it from our own accounts, and then we shared it on our B account, and it did very well. It got 6,000 or 7,000 retweets, 30,000 or 40,000 likes. People loved the joke. And then a Daily Beast editor shared it And he has a few 100,000 followers. He's like, this is terrible comedy, blah, 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 or something. And then all of his blue check followers started trying to ratio it and like make fun of it and all this stuff. But it never got ratioed. It still did incredibly well compared to the amount of hate that was coming at it. And then the Daily Beast wrote a whole article on everybody hates this. And I'm like, oh man, you guys are the worst. Anyway, so then there was this woman, this girl, Rebecca Mackay, who is I don't know who this is, but she has a blue check, so she's probably important. And she shared our joke, and she said, a thread about writing funny and why this ain't it. And then there's a little thread emoji. First of all, before we get to craft, punching up equals usually okay. Punching up at someone funnier and smarter than you who can clap back real hard if he wants equals unwise. Punching down regarding mental illness and neurodivergence is out of bounds and wasn't even funny in 5th grade. Next, as many have dragged this headline for, and I'm only looking at the headline, I'm not going to click through. It's wordy as F word. But we can break that down several ways. First, you generally want to end a sentence with either the reveal or the funniest part. If you say the funniest thing early, and I am in no way implying that anything here is funny, people hold their laugh till the end of the sentence, and then it's too late to laugh. Second, just way too many words. Third, pick your punchline. They're going for like 5 different things here, and it feels desperate. Wait, if you didn't think that was funny, I got another one. Wait, one more. If you think about the rhythm of this, first we get that he's dead, and then we get the Twitter part, and then we get the 2 adjectives, and then the parrot, and then another descriptor. I could not make this worse if I tried. There's also the fact that some words are funnier than others, and these are not funny words. A lemur would be a much funnier animal. Drunken would be funnier than glue sniffing or mentally ill or with Tourette's, which were all 2 words. So drunken lemur is already better. I consider crack-addled because the assonance and the hard C make it fun to say, but crack-addled lemur is too much of a mouthful. So I'm going to stick with drunken lemur. Now let's go back. All right, I'm done.
I was going to say, how long does this go?
It's like 20 to 30 tweets, 24.
Oh, it's up there, 24 tweets.
Oh, this is still going.
It still goes.
Is she an expert on comedy?
I don't think so.
It doesn't seem like she is. She clearly doesn't understand. A drunken lemur is not funnier than a mentally ill parrot.
No, mentally ill parrot is great. I really like that. And I also, never mind.
Well, John Cleese likes lemurs.
Lemurs are funny. I agree that
I think they're funny.
He was all about lemurs, but not so much monkeys, right?
He thought monkeys were not
monkeys
very
funny. What did he call them?
He called them ungenerous.
Greedy. Ungenerous.
Yeah.
No.
Lemurs are
Parrots are really
thoughtful.
funny. I that's my parrot. And parrots are very funny. Like they're little jerks in a funny way. And they think that they're much like more important than they are. And it's pretty great.
Yeah, I think parrots are funny. That seems like parrots make good comedy.
Yeah. All right. Well, sorry. If she didn't, I'm thinking it's possible. She's a woman, so she's probably not funny, and she just doesn't get humor. So I just
she sure like went into detail on this joke.
So I just wanted to explain. Maybe if she didn't get, I'll just provide a little joke explanation. The joke is that Stephen King's estate revealed that he died years ago, and that his Twitter account is being run by a mentally ill parrot that has Tourette's and also sniffs glue. So I hope that helps.
Maybe she didn't get that.
And it's possible she just didn't understand that part of the joke.
How is glue sniffing not funnier than drinking? I feel like glue sniffing is way funnier.
I've already explained the joke.
All right, sorry. It's way funnier. Remember that scene in Airplane? When he goes, I picked the wrong day. You see, he kept going. He's like, pick the wrong day to stop drinking. That's funny. Pick the wrong day to stop smoking. That's funny. Pick the wrong day to stop sniffing glue. Well, that's comic genius.
That's the beat you end on too, right?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I feel like you're stepping on my apology and explanation.
I'm sorry.
The explanation is that
I didn't mean to.
Stephen King's estate revealed that he died years ago, and that his Twitter account is being run by a glue sniffing. What did we say? Retarded parrot? What was it? Mentally ill glue sniffing parrot with Tourette's. So hopefully that helps. All right, now we're going to go into our subscriber portion where we have some bonus hate mail from another liberal site that doesn't like us. We have some subscriber headlines, and Dan probably has to answer the second set of 10 questions.
Oh, man.
So let's do it.
Coming up next for Babylon Bee subscribers.
Because Andrew Cuomo had to get a COVID test or something, and so he was like on, and Chris Cuomo brought up this giant, like, oh, we gotta
here we go
put this on your nose. So you hear this giant Q-tip as like a big prop gag, and
that's right, because they're big and it's hard to get up your nose.
That's the joke.
Those guys are.
It's funny because it's bigger than a normal, bigger than a regular Q-tip.
It's bigger than a normal Q-tip.
This has been another edition of the Bee Weekly from the dedicated team of certified fake news journalists you can trust here at the Babylon Bee. reminding you that fake news of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth.